My son blocked me at the hospital door after I had driven 2 hours and 46 minutes through a rainstorm with a heart condition. He looked me in the eye and said the words that would cost him everything. Mom, what are you actually doing here? Kara's mom is the only grandma she needs. 3 days later, when the hospital billing department called me asking to authorize the $13,500 charge for their VIP birthing suite, I smiled for the first time since my granddaughter was born. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button. Let me back up and explain how we got to this delicious moment of karma. The phone rang at 6 in the morning. You know that ring? It's not the casual ring of a friend checking in or a telemarketer trying to sell you insurance. It was that sharp, demanding ring that screams, emergency. My heart did a little flutter in my chest before I even picked it up. I fumbled for my glasses on the nightstand, my fingers stiff from the damp Portland air. It was my son, Mario. Mom, are you there? His voice was tight, high-pitched. He sounded like he did when he was 7 years old and had broken the neighbor's window. Panic, pure panic. I'm here, Mario, I said, sitting up, ignoring the way my lower back protested the sudden movement. Is it time? Is Kara okay? It's time. We're at the hospital now, he said, his breath coming in short bursts. But, Mom, listen, I made a stupid mistake. I was rushing to get Kara in the car, and I left my wallet on the kitchen counter. I don't have anything on me. Oh, honey, I soothed him. I was already out of bed, moving toward the dresser. That's all right. You're stressed. It happens. It's not all right, he snapped, and I flinched a little at the tone. The hotel across the street. The one where I need to crash if this goes long. They need a deposit to hold the room. They won't take Apple Pay for the security hold. They need a card number over the phone right now, or I lose the reservation. Can you read me your card number? The Visa? I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. Why would I? He's my son. My baby. I grabbed my purse from the hook by the door, digging past the tissues and the peppermint candies until I found my wallet. Okay, got a pen? I asked. Yeah, just read it, he said. I read him the 16 digits. I gave him the expiration date. I gave him the 3 little numbers on the back. Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver, he said, his voice dropping an octave, sounding relieved. I just put it down for the deposit. I'll swap it out with my card as soon as I can drive back home to get my wallet. Don't worry about it, I told him, clutching the phone with both hands. I'm just so glad the baby is coming. I'm coming down, Mario. I'm packing the car now. There was a pause on the line, a silence that lasted just a beat too long. Okay, he said finally. Drive safe. He hung up before I could say, I love you. I sat there on the edge of my bed for a moment, the silence of the house settling back around me. My chest felt tight. Not the good kind of tight, like excitement. It was a squeezing sensation right in the center of my rib cage. My doctor, Dr. Evans, had warned me about this just last week. Lydia, he'd said, looking at my chart over the rim of his glasses. Your blood pressure is too high. Your heart is working too hard. No stress. No long drives. You need to rest. Rest. I snorted softly to myself as I pulled my suitcase from the closet. Mothers don't rest. We don't get sick days. We don't get to clock out. If my son was having his first child, if my granddaughter Yasmin was entering this world, I was going to be there. I popped a nitroglycerin pill under my tongue, waited for the bitter taste to dissolve, and willed my heart to behave. Just get me to Boston, I prayed. Just let me see her. I looked out the window. It was pouring rain, a heavy, gray New England downpour that turned the sky the color of slate. The drive from Portland to Boston is usually a straight shot down. 95, maybe an hour and 45 minutes if you're lucky. But in this weather, with my old sedan that needed new wiper blades, I checked the GPS on my phone. 2 hours and 46 minutes. I took a deep breath. I grabbed the bag, sitting on my armchair. Inside was the blanket. I had been knitting it for 4 months. It wasn't just store-bought yarn. It was a soft cashmere blend I had to special order. It cost me a week's worth of groceries, but I didn't care. I chose a soft lavender color because Kara had mentioned months ago that she liked purple. I wanted Yasmin to be wrapped in something I made, something that smelled like me, like love. I locked the front door and stepped out into the rain. The drive was brutal. The moment I hit the highway, the tension started. The rain was coming down in sheets, blurring the taillights of the semi-trucks in front of me into long, angry red streaks. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My vision isn't what it used to be at night or in storms. The glare from the oncoming headlights felt like needles poking into my eyes. Every mile felt like a battle. My lower back began to throb, a dull ache that radiated down my leg. I shifted in my seat, trying to find a comfortable position, but there wasn't one. To keep myself awake, to keep the fear of hydroplaning at bay, I started talking to myself. I listed the things I had done to get Mario to this point. I remembered the year his father left. Mario was 8. I was working as a receptionist during the day and waiting tables at the diner at night. I remembered coming home at midnight, my feet swollen 2 sizes too big for my shoes, smelling like grease and old coffee. But I would sit at the kitchen table and help him with his math homework until 1 a.m. because I refused to let his grades slip. I remembered the winter he needed braces. The orthodontist said it would cost $4,000. I didn't have $4,000. I had barely enough to keep the heat on, so I stopped buying meat. We ate pasta, beans, and toast for dinner for 2 years. I wore the same winter coat until the lining shredded and the wind cut right through it. But Mario got his braces. He got that perfect, straight smile he has today. I remembered his college tuition bills. I took out a second mortgage on the house. I'm still paying it off. I will probably be paying it off until the day I die. But it didn't matter. He graduated. He got the big job in Boston. He found Kara. It was worth it, I told myself as a massive truck sped past me, spraying dirty water all over my windshield, blinding me for a terrifying second. It was all worth it, because today I get my reward. Today I become a grandmother. I pictured it in my head to pass the time. I pictured walking into the hospital room. Mario would look up, his face softening when he saw me. He'd say, "Look, Yasmin, Grandma is here." Kara would be tired but smiling, and she'd let me hold the baby. I'd wrap Yasmin in the lavender blanket. I'd smell that new baby smell, powder and milk and heaven. That vision kept my foot on the gas pedal. It kept me focused through the construction traffic in New Hampshire. It kept me calm when the tightness in my chest returned, a sharp warning pinch near my sternum. "Not now," I told my heart. "Be quiet. We are almost there." By the time I saw the signs for Boston, my body was vibrating with exhaustion. My hands were cramping around the wheel, but the adrenaline was kicking in now. It's a powerful drug, a mother's hope. It masks the pain. It hides the reality. I navigated the confusing city streets, the GPS shouting directions at me. I found the hospital parking garage. It was one of those tight, spiraling concrete structures that feels like a dungeon. I had to circle up to the 6th level to find a spot. When I finally turned off the engine, the silence in the car was deafening. My hands were shaking as I pulled the keys out of the ignition. I checked the mirror. I looked tired, The bags under my eyes were heavy, and my gray hair was a bit frizzy from the humidity. I smoothed it down. I put on a fresh coat of lipstick, a soft coral shade I saved for church and special occasions. "Showtime, Lydia," I whispered. I grabbed the gift bag with the blanket. I grabbed my purse. I walked to the elevator, my legs feeling stiff and heavy, but my spirit soaring. The elevator ride down to the lobby felt like it took a lifetime. I followed the signs to labor and delivery. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and floor wax. It was a cold smell, but to me, it smelled like beginning. I reached the front desk of the maternity ward. The security guard asked for my name. "Lydia Latham," I said, standing tall, ignoring the ache in my spine. "I'm here to see my son, Mario Latham, and my granddaughter." The guard checked a list. He buzzed the door open. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Thump, 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 thump. This was it, the moment every mother waits for. The promotion from mom to grandma, the moment you realize your legacy is safe. I walked through the double doors, clutching that lavender blanket like a shield. I was ready to give them everything I had. My love, my support, my time. I had already given them my credit card number this morning without blinking. I would give them anything. I saw Mario standing down the hall. He was outside a room, looking at his phone. A smile broke across my face. I picked up my pace, forgetting the pain, forgetting the 2-hour and 46-minute drive, forgetting the warning from Dr. Evans. "Mario!" I called out softly, waving my hand. He looked up, and that's when I saw it. He didn't smile. His face didn't soften. His eyes went wide, but not with happiness. They went wide with annoyance. He looked at me the way you look at a stain on your favorite shirt. He shoved his phone into his pocket and stepped into the middle of the hallway, blocking the door to the room behind him. I slowed down, my smile faltering just a little. I gripped the bag with the blanket tighter. I didn't know it yet, but my heart was about to break in a way that had nothing to do with my medical condition. I took one more step forward, full of hope, walking straight into the fire. I stopped walking. I was maybe 5 feet away from him. Usually when I see my son, there's this moment of recognition. A spark. He smiles, I smile, we hug. It's automatic. It's the rhythm of a mother and child that has existed for 35 years. But standing there in that hospital hallway, the rhythm broke. It just shattered. Mario didn't open his arms. He crossed them. He stood with his feet planted wide, like a bouncer at a club blocking the door to room 304. "Mario," I said again, my voice trembling just a little. "I made it. The traffic was terrible, but I made it." I took a step toward him, instinctively reaching out to touch his arm, to reassure myself that he was real, that this moment was real. He took a step back. My hand froze in midair. "Mom," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was hard. It was a tone I had never heard directed at me. I'd heard him use it with telemarketers. I'd heard him use it when he was arguing with a mechanic on the phone. But never at me. "What are you doing here?" I blinked. The question didn't make sense. It was like asking why the sun comes up. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, a nervous chuckle escaping my lips. "I'm here for the baby. I'm here for Yasmin. Is she here? Is she okay?" "She's fine," he said, cutting me off. He glanced over his shoulder at the closed door, then back at me, his jaw tight. "Kara is fine. The baby is fine. But, Mom, seriously, why are you actually here right now?" The adrenaline that had powered me through the 3-hour drive, through the rain, through the chest pain, it suddenly evaporated. In its place, a cold, heavy exhaustion settled into my bones. My bag, The one with the cashmere blanket suddenly felt like it weighed 50 pounds. Mario, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You called me this morning. You asked for my credit card. You told me it was time. I drove nearly 3 hours in a storm to meet my granddaughter. He let out a sigh, a loud, impatient exhale through his nose. He looked at the ceiling, then back at me, as if I were a child who just didn't understand the rules of a game. I called you for the deposit, Mom. I didn't say come down immediately. Kara is exhausted. She's been in labor for 12 hours. She's messy, she's tired, and she's recovering. I know that, I said. I've given birth, Mario. I know what it's like. I'm not going to bother her. I just want to peek in. I just want to see her little face and give you this. I lifted the gift bag, slightly. I made her a blanket, the lavender one I told you about. He didn't even look at the bag. He looked right into my eyes, and he delivered the words that would ring in my ears for the rest of my life. Mom, look, he said, lowering his voice to a harsh whisper. Kara doesn't want visitors. She's comfortable with her mom. Her mother is in there right now helping her with the latching and the changing. Kara's mom is the only grandma she needs right now. The air left the hallway. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The only grandma she needs. I stood there, my mouth slightly open, trying to process the sentence. It wasn't just a rejection, it was an erasure. It was as if the last 35 years of raising him, of loving him, didn't qualify me for this moment. Her mother is in there? I whispered. Yes, Mario said defensively. She's been here the whole time. It's different, Mom. It's her mother. Girls want their own mothers when they give birth. It's a biological thing. You're the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law. He said it like it was a dirty word, like it was a title that stripped me of all rights to love that baby. I'm not just a mother-in-law, I said, my voice rising. I could feel the heat rushing to my cheeks. I am your mother. I am Yasmin's grandmother. I have just as much right to love her as Kara's mother does. Sure, Mario hissed, looking around the hallway frantically. A nurse walked by, pushing a cart, and glanced at us. Mario stepped closer, invading my space, using his height to intimidate me. Keep your voice down. You are embarrassing me. I drove 3 hours, Mario. I snapped, unable to keep the hurt inside anymore. I have a heart condition, and I drove through a storm because I love you. I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came here to be a family. Well, you're stressing out my family, he shot back. My family. He meant him, Kara, and the baby. I wasn't in that circle anymore. I was on the outside. Go to the hotel, Mom, he said, waving his hand dismissively toward the elevators. Just go. Check in. Get some sleep. Maybe you can come back tomorrow or the day after when things settle down. But right now, you're making a scene, and Kara doesn't need this negative energy. Negative energy. My love was negative energy. My presence was a scene. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man with the stubble on his chin and the designer watch on his wrist. I looked for the little boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. I looked for the teenager who cried on my shoulder when his first girlfriend broke up with him. They were gone, replaced by this stranger who was guarding the door like I was a threat. I'm not making a scene, Mario, I said quietly. My fight was draining away, replaced by a deep, hollow ache. I'm just heartbroken. He didn't respond to that. He just checked his watch. Just go to the hotel, Mom. I'll text you later. He turned his back on me. He put his hand on the door handle of room 304. I didn't leave immediately. I couldn't. My feet wouldn't move. I stood there as he cracked the door open. He slipped inside quickly, trying to minimize the gap, but he wasn't fast enough. Through the crack in the door and the large observation window, I saw inside. The room was bathed in soft, golden light. It looked warm. There were balloons in the corner, pink and silver. Kara was sitting up in the hospital bed, looking tired but radiant. And there, sitting in the rocking chair, right next to the bed, was Sharon, Kara's mother. She wasn't just sitting there. She was holding a bundle wrapped in white. She was rocking back and forth, cooing down at the bundle. She looked comfortable. She had her shoes off. Her purse was on the bedside table next to Mario's. She belonged there. As I watched, Sharon said something, and Kara threw her head back and laughed. It was a genuine, happy laugh. Mario walked over and put his hand on Sharon's shoulder, leaning in to look at the baby. They were a portrait of a perfect family, and I was the spectator. I was the audience member who hadn't bought a ticket. Sharon looked up then. She looked through the glass and saw me standing in the hallway. Her eyes locked with mine. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She didn't motion for me to come in. She just tightened her hold on the baby, on my granddaughter, and turned her attention back to Kara. The door clicked shut. The sound was final. It echoed in the sterile hallway. I stood there for a long time. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A janitor pushed a mop bucket past me, the wheels squeaking on the linoleum. He looked at me, an old woman standing alone with a gift bag and a purse, tears silently streaming down her face, and he looked away quickly, giving me privacy I didn't want. I looked down at the bag in my hand, the cashmere blanket. I had woven so much hope into those stitches. I imagined Yasmin coming home in it. I imagined keeping her warm. Now, it just felt silly. A silly gift from a silly old woman who didn't know her place. Okay, I whispered to the empty hallway. Okay. I turned around. My back screamed in protest as I walked toward the elevators. Every step away from that room felt like tearing a piece of my soul off. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I might have started screaming, and then Mario would have been right. Then I really would have been making a scene. I pressed the down button. I waited, and I realized that the hardest part of the drive wasn't the rain or the traffic. It was the drive back down to the lobby, knowing that upstairs, life was beginning without me. I sat in my car in the parking garage, the engine idling. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. The rain was still drumming against the roof, a relentless, heavy rhythm that matched the pounding in my head. Go to the hotel, Mario had said. You're making a scene. I put the car in reverse, but I couldn't lift my foot off the brake. I just couldn't do it. Going to a hotel felt like admitting defeat. It felt like accepting that I was an outsider. And I am not an outsider. I am the grandmother. That is my son upstairs. That is my blood in that crib. I took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of old upholstery and peppermint. Maybe I approached this wrong. I thought, maybe I was too intense. Maybe they just need to see that I'm here to help, not to intrude. I looked at the dashboard clock. It was just past noon. I hadn't eaten since toast at 5 a.m., but I wasn't hungry. I was desperate. I needed a peace offering. I put the car back in park and pulled up Google Maps on my phone. I typed in baby store. A boutique popped up just 4 blocks away. Gilded Cradle. It sounded expensive. It sounded like the kind of place Kara liked. Trendy, polished, exclusive. I wiped my face with a tissue, checked my lipstick in the rearview mirror, and drove out of the garage. The shop smelled like lavender and expensive cotton. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that tells you everything in here costs more than your weekly grocery bill. I walked through the aisles, my fingers brushing against soft onesies that cost $50 and tiny leather moccasins that cost $80. I did the math in my head. My Social Security check had just come in. but after the mortgage and the electric bill, things were tight. I had maybe $400 to last me the rest of the month. But then I saw it. Inside a glass display case near the register, there was a rattle. It wasn't plastic. It was sterling silver, shaped like a little dumbbell, with intricate engravings of stars and moons on the handle. It was beautiful. It was the kind of thing you keep forever. The kind of thing a grandchild shows their own children one day and says, "My grandmother gave this to me when I was born." I pointed to it. "How much is that?" I asked the salesgirl. "That's $150, she said, smiling. "We can engrave it for an extra 50. Takes about 20 minutes. $200. Half of my monthly surplus." "Do it," I said. "Engrave Yasmin on it." While she worked, I found a matching stroller set, a plush organic cotton liner, and a little mobile that clipped onto the canopy with silver stars. It was another $100. $300. I swiped my debit card. I watched the machine say, "Approved." My stomach did a little flip, thinking about the grocery budget for next week, but I pushed it down. This was an investment. I wasn't just buying silver and cotton. I was buying my way back in. I was buying forgiveness for whatever sin I had committed by just showing up. I drove back to the hospital with the heavy cream-colored gift bag on the passenger seat. I felt lighter, confident. Who could turn away a grandmother bearing gifts like this? It showed I respected their taste. It showed I was trying. I walked back into the hospital lobby. The security guard from earlier was gone, replaced by a younger woman. I didn't try to go up to the room this time. I knew the rules now. I wasn't on the list. I went to the main information desk in the lobby. "Excuse me," I said to the nurse behind the high counter. "I'm here to drop something off for my son and daughter-in-law, Mario and Kara Latham, room 304. The nurse typed something into her computer. She frowned slightly. "I'm sorry, ma'am. That room has a strict no visitors flag on it. Explicit instructions." "I know," I said quickly, trying to sound cheerful. "I'm not trying to go up. I just want to leave this for them." I lifted the fancy bag, and I also pulled the lavender knit blanket out of my tote bag. I folded it neatly on the counter. And this is very important. I made it myself. The nurse looked at the pile. She looked at me. She saw the desperation I was trying so hard to hide. "I can call up to the nurse's station on the 3rd floor," she said kindly. "I'll have an orderly come down and take it up to them. Is that okay?" "That would be wonderful," I said. "Please just tell them it's from Lydia. Tell them I love them. And tell them I'll be downstairs in the lobby if they need anything, or if they change their minds." "I'll pass the message along," she said. I watched her make the call. I watched an orderly in blue scrubs come down, take the expensive bag and my soft lavender blanket, and disappear into the elevator. And then I waited. I found a chair in the corner of the lobby. It was one of those vinyl chairs that sticks to your skin, positioned near a fake ficus tree. I sat down and smoothed my skirt. I put my phone on my knee, staring at the screen. I imagined the scene upstairs. The orderly would walk in. Kara would see the beautiful silver rattle. She would see the engraving, Yasmin. She would touch the softness of the blanket I made. She would look at Mario and say, "Oh, this is so sweet. Maybe we were too hard on her. Tell her to come up for 5 minutes." Any second now. The phone would buzz. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The lobby was a busy place. I watched a young father walk in carrying a bouquet of balloons that said, "It's a boy." He was practically skipping toward the elevators. I saw a group of grandparents, 4 of them holding flowers and teddy bears, arguing playfully about who would get to hold the baby first. They were loud and happy, and nobody stopped them. Nobody told them they were making a scene. I felt a lump form in my throat. I swallowed it down. Just wait, I told myself. They are just busy admiring the gifts. 30 minutes. My phone finally buzzed. My heart leaped into my throat. I grabbed it so fast I almost dropped it. It was a text from Mario. I swiped the screen open, my fingers trembling. I was ready to type, "I'm coming up." I read the message. "Mom, the nurse just brought this stuff in. Stop. Seriously. Stop trying to buy your way in. We don't want your stuff. We don't need your money or your blankets. You are not listening. We want space. Leave us alone. Go home." I read it twice. "We don't want your stuff. Go home." The phone slipped from my hand and landed on my lap. The screen went black, but the words were burned into my retinas. It wasn't just a rejection of my presence anymore. It was a rejection of my effort, my sacrifice. That $300, money I needed, was gone, dismissed as a nuisance. The blanket, every stitch made with love while watching TV in my empty house, was unwanted. I looked up. Across the lobby, the group of grandparents I had seen earlier was coming back down. They were laughing. One of the grandmothers was wiping a happy tear from her eye. "Did you see his little nose?" she was saying. "He looks just like David." They walked past me, a bubble of joy and connection. I sat there by the fake ficus tree, invisible. The tears didn't sting this time. They just spilled over, hot and fast. I covered my mouth with my hand to stifle a sob, but my shoulders started to shake. I was 68 years old. I had raised a son. I had paid his tuition. I had nursed him through chickenpox and broken hearts. I had driven through a storm with a bad heart to meet his child. And I was sitting in a hospital lobby, being told to go away via text message. People walked by. A woman with a toddler glanced at me, looked concerned for a second, and then looked away, pulling her child closer. I was the sad old woman in the corner. I was the cautionary tale. I felt small. I felt foolish. But mostly, I felt a deep, terrifying loneliness. The kind of loneliness that tells you that the people you live for can live perfectly fine without you. I didn't go home. Not right away. I should have. A woman with an ounce of pride would have turned the car around the moment that text message hit her phone. She would have driven back to Portland, made a cup of tea, and pretended none of this happened. But pride is a funny thing. It disappears when you're desperate. For 2 days, I stayed in the area. I slept in my car for the first night because I didn't want to spend money on a hotel if they changed their minds. My back seized up so bad, I could barely turn my neck the next morning. For the second night, I found a cheap motel off the highway that smelled like stale cigarettes and bleach. I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, praying for a change of heart, praying for a text that said, "Mom, we're sorry. We're tired. Come meet her." It never came. By the morning of the third day, the discharge day, I knew it was over. I wasn't going to meet Yasmin. Not this trip. Maybe not for a long time. But I couldn't leave without seeing her. Just once. Just to know she was real. Just to imprint her face on my memory, so I had something to hold on to during the long, empty drive back to Maine. So I parked my sedan in the far corner of the hospital pickup lane. It was a spot usually reserved for taxis, but I didn't care. I turned the engine off, and I waited. I felt like a criminal. I felt like a stalker in my own life. Here I was 68 years old, hiding behind a pair of sunglasses, waiting to catch a glimpse of my own family, like I was some kind of stranger. It was a bright, sunny morning. The rain had finally cleared. It felt cruel, honestly. The world looked crisp and clean, while I felt grimy and discarded. I watched the automatic doors for 2 hours. I watched other families leave. I watched fathers struggle with car seats, their faces looking terrified and proud. I watched new mothers walking slowly, clutching their bellies. Then, at 10:15 a.m., the doors slid open. My breath hitched in my throat. It was them. Mario came out first. He was loaded down with bags, suitcases, pillows, and the heavy cream-colored gift bag from the boutique. He looked tired, but he had that puffiness in his chest, that strut of a new dad. Then came Kara. She was in a wheelchair being pushed by a nurse. She looked beautiful, even in sweatpants. And then, walking right beside the wheelchair, was Sharon, the other grandma. My hands gripped the steering wheel. Sharon wasn't carrying bags. She wasn't pushing the wheelchair. She was carrying the baby. She was holding Yasmin against her chest, wrapped in a pink hospital blanket, shielding her little face from the sun with her hand. She looked possessive. She walked with a sense of ownership that made my stomach turn. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead against the cool glass of my windshield. "Turn this way," I whispered. "Just turn this way, so I can see her." They stopped at Mario's SUV, which was parked 3 cars ahead of me. They didn't see me. Why would they look? To them, I was gone. I was back in Maine. I was a problem they had solved. I watched the choreography of their departure. It was painful to witness. Sharon stood by the open car door, cooing at the baby, unwilling to let go until the very last second. Mario was arranging things in the trunk. He was tossing in the overnight bags, the pillows. Then I saw him pause. He was holding the cream-colored gift bag from the boutique, the one I had spent $300 on, the one that held the silver rattle and the stroller set. He reached into the bag. He pulled out the stroller set boxes and tucked them neatly into the corner of the trunk. Then he reached in and pulled out the small velvet box that held the silver rattle. He slipped that into his jacket pocket. My heart lifted slightly. They kept it, I thought. They liked it. But then Mario looked at what was left in the bag. He reached in and pulled out a bundle of lavender yarn. My blanket. He held it up for a second. It looked so soft in the sunlight. I saw Kara say something from the front seat. She waved her hand dismissively, a quick flick of her wrist like she was shooing away a fly. Mario nodded. He walked over to the concrete trash bin, the big, dirty dumpster they have near the entrance for coffee cups and fast food wrappers. He didn't hesitate. He didn't fold it. He didn't look guilty. He just dropped my hand-knit blanket into the trash. Then he crumpled up the empty gift bag and shoved that in on top of it. He dusted his hands off on his jeans, walked back to the car, and slammed the trunk shut. I sat there, frozen. My brain couldn't process what my eyes had just seen. He got into the driver's seat. The SUV pulled out. They drove right past my car. I could see the back of Sharon's head in the back seat, sitting next to the car seat. I could see Mario laughing at something she said. They drove away. They merged into traffic. They disappeared. I didn't start my car. I couldn't feel my legs. For a full minute, I just stared at the concrete trash bin. They threw it away. Slowly, like a woman in a trance, I opened my car door. I stepped out. My knees were shaking so bad I had to hold onto the side mirror to steady myself. I walked across the pavement. I didn't care who saw me. I reached the trash bin. The smell hit me first, stale coffee and exhaust fumes. I looked inside. There it was, my lavender blanket, the one I had started knitting the day Mario told me Kara was pregnant, the one I had worked on every night while watching Wheel of Fortune, counting stitches, imagining how soft it would feel against a newborn skin. The one I had washed with hypoallergenic detergent and wrapped in tissue paper. It was sitting on top of a half-eaten sandwich and a greasy brown paper bag. A dark stain from someone's leftover soda was already seeping into the corner of the wool. I reached in. My hand shook as I touched it. I pulled it out. I held it to my chest, heedless of the stain. I buried my face in it. It still smelled faintly of the lavender detergent I used, but the smell of the trash was stronger now. And then I realized what wasn't there. The silver rattle, the stroller set. They had kept the expensive stuff. They had kept the silver and the organic cotton. They took the things that cost money, the things they could show off to their friends. But the one thing that had no price tag, the one thing that was made of hours of my time and pieces of my heart, that was trash to them. I looked at the empty space where the SUV had been. For the last 3 days, I had been crying. I had been hurt. I had been the sad, rejected mother wondering what I did wrong. I had been making excuses for them. They're stressed. They're tired. Hormones. But as I stood there in that parking lot, holding my soiled blanket, the tears stopped. Just like that. They dried up. A coldness spread through my chest. It wasn't the tightness of my heart condition. It was something else. It was the ice of realization. They didn't hate me because I was annoying. They didn't exclude me because I was too much. They used me. They took my money for the hotel deposit. They took the expensive gifts. And the moment I offered something that required emotional connection, my presence, my handmade gift, they threw it in the garbage. I wasn't a mother to Mario anymore. I was an ATM that tried to talk. I was a resource they could tap when they needed cash, but a nuisance they could discard when they wanted to play perfect family with Sharon. I looked down at the blanket one last time. I didn't cry over it. I folded it. The stain was ugly, but I folded it anyway. I walked back to my car, my steps steady. I didn't feel weak anymore. I didn't feel old. I threw the blanket onto the passenger seat. I slammed the car door shut. I started the engine. The GPS still said home, but I wasn't going home to cry. I was going home to settle a score. I remembered the phone call from 3 days ago. The hotel needs a deposit, he had said. I gripped the steering wheel. My eyes narrowed. You want to treat me like trash, Mario? I thought, putting the car into gear. Fine. But remember, you can't get money from trash. I pulled out of the parking lot. I didn't look back at the hospital. I didn't look back at the city. I turned onto the highway, and for the first time in days, I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a woman who just realized she holds the receipt for everything. I was about 40 minutes north of Boston when the phone rang. I was in the middle lane of I-95, surrounded by semi-trucks and commuters rushing home for lunch. The radio was off. I couldn't handle the noise. My head was still replaying the image of that lavender yarn sitting on top of a greasy paper bag. Every time I blinked, I saw it. Trash. They threw my love in the trash. When the phone buzzed on the passenger seat, right next to the rescued blanket, I flinched. I glanced at the screen. It wasn't Mario. It wasn't Kara. It was a number I didn't recognize, with a 617 area code. Boston. For a split second, a foolish, desperate hope flared up in my chest. Maybe it's the nurse, I thought. Maybe she saw what happened. Maybe she grabbed the rattle before Mario took it, and she wants to mail it to me. I merged into the slow lane and answered on the car's Bluetooth. Hello. My voice sounded raspy, like I'd been screaming, even though I hadn't said a word in an hour. Hello. May I speak with Lydia Latham? The voice was crisp, professional, and brisk. It wasn't a nurse. It sounded like someone sitting in a cubicle. This is Lydia, I said. Mrs. Latham. This is Brenda from the Billing and Patient Accounts Department at St. Jude's Medical Center. I'm calling regarding the discharge processing for the patient, Kara Latham. My stomach dropped. Discharge processing. That meant they were gone. They were really gone. Yes, I said, gripping the steering wheel. Is everything okay? Is the baby okay? Oh, the patients have been discharged, Brenda said, her voice devoid of emotion. This call is regarding the payment on file. We are attempting to settle the final balance for the suite and the delivery services, but the transaction was declined. The system is showing a credit limit exceeded, error on the Visa card ending in 4598. I frowned, keeping my eyes on the road. Declined? That's impossible. It's not impossible, ma'am. The card was rejected. Listen, I said, trying to make sense of it. My son, Mario, asked for my card number this morning for a hotel deposit. He said the hotel across the street needed a hold. That should only be what, $200? I definitely have $200 available on that card. There was a pause on the line, a long, heavy silence. I could hear Brenda clicking a keyboard in the background. Mrs. Latham, Brenda said slowly, "This charge isn't for a hotel across the street. This charge is for St. Jude's Medical Center. Your card is listed as the primary guarantor for the entire hospital stay." I nearly swerved into the breakdown lane. I took my foot off the gas. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice rising. "The entire stay?" "Yes, ma'am. The total balance we are trying to run is $13,524.50. The number hit me like a physical blow. $13,000. There must be a mistake, I stammered. Mario has insurance. Good insurance. He works in finance. Why would you be charging me $13,000? The insurance covered the standard delivery fees, Brenda explained, sounding impatient now. This balance is for the out-of-pocket upgrades and non-covered amenities selected by the family. We require a credit card on file before admission to the VIP wing. Your son provided this card number over the phone at 6:15 a.m. this morning to secure the booking. My heart was hammering against my ribs, hard and fast. I felt dizzy. I saw a sign for a rest stop and jerked the wheel to the right, taking the exit ramp way too fast. I parked the car crookedly across two spaces near the truck idling area. Upgrades. I whispered, "What upgrades?" "Well, let me look at the itemized list," Brenda said. I could hear the papers rustling. "We have the upgrade fee for the Platinum Birthing Suite, which includes the private recovery room with the city view. That's 3 nights at $2,000 a night. We have the Gourmet Celebration Package, which is the catered meals for the family. And we have the guest accommodation fee for the in-room pull-out suite." I sat there, staring at a dirty seagull pecking at a French fry on the pavement. The guest accommodation fee. "Wait," I said, "the pull-out suite. Who is that for?" "It's for an overnight guest to stay in the room with the new parents," Brenda said, "usually the grandmother or a support person." The air left my lungs. The grandmother. Sharon. Mario hadn't left his wallet at home. He hadn't forgotten it. He had lied to me. He looked at his bank account, looked at the cost of the VIP suite Kara wanted, and decided he couldn't afford it. Or maybe he just didn't want to pay for it. So he called me. He called his mother, woke her up at 6 in the morning, and fed me a story about a hotel deposit. He knew I would give it to him. He knew I would do anything to help. He used my credit card to pay for a VIP suite I wasn't allowed to enter. He used my credit card to buy gourmet steaks and champagne that he and Kara ate while I sat in the lobby with a vending machine coffee. He used my credit card to pay for a bed for Sharon to sleep in right next to my granddaughter while I slept in my car in the parking garage. My hands started to shake, but this time it wasn't from sadness. It wasn't from the frailty of being 68 and tired. It was rage. It was a cold, terrifying rage that started in my toes and shot straight up to my throat. I looked over at the passenger seat. At the blanket. It was still damp from the trash. It smelled like garbage. That was what they thought of me. I was trash to them. But my money My money was good enough for the platinum suite. Mrs. Latham? Brenda asked, "Do you have another card we can use? Or should I split the payment across 2 cards?" I closed my eyes. I saw Mario's face in the parking lot. I saw the way he tossed the blanket into the dumpster without a second thought. He didn't just disrespect me. He stole from me. He stole my financial security. He was willing to bury me in debt for years. I'm on a fixed income. It would take me a decade to pay off $13,000, just so Kara could have a perfect birth experience with her real mother. He counted on me being weak. He counted on me being the nice mom who would just sigh and say, "Well, it's for the baby," and figure out how to pay it later. He counted on my silence. I opened my eyes. I looked at the dashboard. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I didn't see a victim. I saw a woman who was done. "Mrs. Latham?" Brenda pressed. "We need to resolve this today, or it goes to collections." "Brenda," I said. My voice was steady. It was low. It was dangerous. "I need you to listen to me very carefully." "I'm listening." "I am not the guarantor for that bill. But, ma'am, your card is on file. I did not authorize that charge." I cut her off. "My son called me and told me he needed the number for a $200 hotel deposit. He lied to me. He used my card for $13,000 of services I did not agree to. I was not present at the hospital. I did not sign any admission papers. I did not eat those meals. I did not sleep in that bed." Silence on the other end. "Are you saying—" Brenda hesitated. "Are you saying this is a fraudulent charge?" I looked at the blanket one more time. I remembered the text message. "We don't want your stuff." "Yes," I said. "That is exactly what I am saying. My son stole my credit card number. He used it without my consent." "Mrs. Latham," Brenda's voice changed. It became serious. "Legal. If you declare this as fraud, we are required by law to file a police report. This is a felony amount. The hospital takes this very seriously. We will have to go after the patient, your son and his wife, for theft of services." "I understand," I said. "Are you sure you want to do that? It will cause significant legal trouble for them." I thought about the 2-hour and 46-minute drive. I thought about my heart condition. I thought about the text message telling me to go away. I thought about my blanket sitting on top of a half-eaten sandwich. They didn't care if they broke my heart. Why should I care if I break their credit score? "He threw my love in the garbage, Brenda," I said softly. "He made his choice." I took a deep breath. "Report it," I said. "Report the fraud. Tell them it was charged to my card without my consent. I am disputing the entire amount." "Okay," Brenda said. "I'm flagging the account now. The transaction is canceled on our end. We will be contacting Mr. Latham immediately for alternative payment or legal action." "Good," I said. "Do not call me again." I hung up the phone. I sat in the silence of the rest stop. The engine ticked as it cooled down. I looked out at the highway, at the cars rushing by. I felt powerful. For the first time in 3 days, the tightness in my chest was gone. I reached over and touched the lavender blanket. "Don't worry, Yasmin," I whispered to the empty car. "Your grandma isn't a doormat. Your grandma is a fighter." I put the car in drive. I merged back onto the highway. I had a long drive home, but for the first time, I wasn't rushing. I turned on the radio. I found a classic rock station. I turned it up. I was going home. And Mario was about to have a very, very bad day. I pulled into my driveway just as the sun was starting to set. The rain had stopped hours ago, leaving the streets of Portland slick and shiny. My little house looked exactly the same as when I left it that morning. The porch light was off. The hydrangeas were drooping a little in the front bed, but as I turned the key in the lock and stepped inside, the house felt different. Or maybe I was different. I dropped my keys on the console table. I didn't take off my shoes. I walked straight to the kitchen table, where I keep my important papers. The drive home had given me 3 hours to think. Usually, silence makes me second-guess myself. Usually, I'd spend that time making excuses for Mario. He's just stressed. I would tell myself. He didn't mean it. But not this time. Every mile I put between myself and Boston, the clearer things became. The image of my lavender blanket sitting on top of a greasy fast food bag in a dumpster was burned into my mind. It was the fuel that kept my anger hot and steady. I sat down at the table. I didn't make tea yet. I didn't turn on the TV. I had work to do. I pulled out my cell phone and dialed the number on the back of my Visa card. "Welcome to Card Services," the automated voice said. I navigated the menu. Press 2 for lost or stolen cards. Press 3 for dispute. I pressed 3. When a representative came on the line, a nice young man named David. I didn't stutter. I didn't cry. "David," I said, my voice calm and firm. "I need to report a fraudulent charge and lock my account immediately." "I can help with that, Mrs. Latham," he said. "Which charge are you concerned about?" "There is a pending charge for St. Jude's Medical Center for $13,500, I said, "and any other charges from today in the Boston area." "I see it here," David said. "It was flagged earlier by the merchant, but reattempted. Did you not authorize this?" "No," I said. "I did not. My card information was used without my permission. I am in Portland, Maine. I have been here all afternoon. I did not sign for this. I did not receive these services." "Okay," David said, typing in the background. "I am marking this as unauthorized. We are closing this card number immediately so no further charges can go through. We will send you a fraud affidavit in the mail. You'll need to sign it and return it." "David," I asked, pausing for a second, "if I sign that affidavit, what happens to the person who used the card?" "Well, since it's a substantial amount, the bank's fraud investigation unit usually hands it over to the authorities. It's identity theft, ma'am. It's a crime." I looked out the kitchen window. I thought about Mario's face when he blocked the door. I thought about the text message. "We don't want your stuff." "Do it," I said. "Send the papers." I hung up. Step 1 was done. The bank was locked down. Mario couldn't charge a stick of gum to my name anymore. Step 2 was the hospital. I picked up the phone again. I called the billing department back. I got a different woman this time, but I gave her the same information. I gave her the reference number Brenda had given me. "I am confirming that I have reported this to my bank as fraud." I told the administrator. "I want it noted in the file that I am not the guarantor. Do not bill me. Do not mail me statements. If you want payment, you need to speak to Mario Latham." "We understand, Mrs. Latham," the woman said. Her tone was serious. "We will be contacting the patient immediately to secure an alternative method of payment. If they cannot provide one, the account goes directly to our legal collections team." "Good," I said. "Thank you." I finally put the phone down. My hands were steady. I stood up and filled the kettle. I listened to the water rushing from the tap. It was a normal sound, a domestic sound. It contrasted so sharply with the destruction I had just unleashed. I put a tea bag in my favorite mug, the one with the chip in the rim. I waited for the whistle. I wondered what they were doing right now. They had probably just gotten home. They were probably settling into their nice house, putting Yasmin in her expensive crib. Sharon was probably ordering takeout, expecting to put it on my card. Mario was probably opening a bottle of wine, congratulating himself on a perfect birth experience that he didn't pay a dime for. And then my phone buzzed. I ignored it. I poured the boiling water over the tea bag. It buzzed again and again, a rapid-fire succession of vibrations rattling against the wooden table. I took a sip of tea. Earl Grey. Hot. Soothing. I picked up the phone. 3 missed calls. All from Mario. And 2 voicemails. I sat back in my chair and put the phone on speaker. Beep. Mom. Mario's voice filled my quiet kitchen. He sounded confused. Hey, I'm trying to pay for the car service that brought us home. I used your card on the app, but it's saying card invalid. Did you change the expiration date or something? Call me back. The driver is waiting. I took another sip of tea. He was using my card for a private car service. He couldn't even drive his own family home. Beep. The second voicemail was different. The confusion was gone, replaced by a sharp edge of panic. Mom, pick up the phone. The hospital just called me. They said the credit card was reported as stolen. They said you flagged the charges as fraud. What is going on? They're saying the payment for the birth was revoked. They're talking about sending a bill for $13,000 to my house immediately. You need to call the bank and fix this. Tell them it was a mistake. Mom, pick up. I smiled. It was a small, sad smile. He wasn't worried about me. He didn't ask if I got home safe. He didn't ask why I did it. He just ordered me to fix it. He still thought he was in charge. He still thought I was the obedient mother who would scramble to clean up his mess. I watched the steam rise from my cup. $13,000. That's a lot of money for a young couple with a mortgage and a new baby. That's the kind of debt that ruins your credit score. That's the kind of debt that keeps you up at night. It's the kind of stress that makes it hard to play perfect family. My phone started ringing again. The screen lit up with his photo. It was a picture from his college graduation. He looked so happy in it, his arm around me. I looked at the name, Mario. I thought about answering. I thought about explaining myself. I could scream at him. I could tell him about the blanket. I could tell him how much he hurt me. But then I realized he knows. He knows he hurt me. He just didn't care until it cost him money. If I answered, he would argue. He would gaslight me. He would say, "Oh, Mom, you're overreacting. It was just a blanket." He would try to charm me or bully me into calling the bank back. I wasn't going to give him that chance. I wasn't the mother who listened to excuses anymore. I was the stranger he had created. And strangers don't pay your bills. I reached out with my index finger. I hovered over the green button for a split second, feeling the ghost of my old self, the mother who wanted to help. Then I looked at the red button. "We don't want your stuff. Leave us alone." "Okay, Mario," I whispered to the empty room. "I'm leaving you alone." I pressed the red button. Decline. The ringing stopped. The silence returned to the kitchen. I took another sip of tea. It tasted better than it had in years. I wasn't just drinking tea. I was drinking freedom. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying my son's burdens. I put the cup down, walked over to the back door, and looked out at my garden. The phone buzzed again behind me, and again. I let it ring. Let him panic. Let him figure it out. Let Sharon pay for the VIP suite she enjoyed so much. I was done. I turned off my cell phone. I couldn't look at the missed calls anymore. The screen was just a flashing red light of my son's panic, and I was done with it. I wanted peace. I wanted to sit in my living room, watch the evening news, and pretend that the last 3 days hadn't happened. But you can't turn off a landline. I still keep a landline in the kitchen. Most people my age do. It's for emergencies or for when the power goes out. It sits on the wall near the refrigerator, a beige relic from a time when people actually talked to each other instead of texting. At 7:15 p.m., the landline rang. It was a jarring, shrill sound. It cut through the quiet of the house like a fire alarm. I knew who it was. Only 3 people have that number: my sister in Florida, my doctor, and Mario. I let it ring 3 times. My hand hovered over the receiver. Part of me, the mother part, the part that is hardwired to protect him, wanted to ignore it. If I didn't answer, I couldn't hear the pain in his voice. If I didn't answer, I could pretend he was just calling to apologize. But I knew better. He wasn't calling to apologize. He was calling because his credit card had just bounced. I picked up the receiver. I didn't say hello. I just held it to my ear. Mom. Mario's voice was so loud, I had to pull the phone away from my ear. He was screaming. Not crying, not asking, screaming. Mom, are you there? Why is your cell phone off? Do you have any idea what is happening right now? I'm here, Mario. I said. My voice was calm. It scared me a little, how calm I was. It was the calm of someone who has nothing left to lose. What did you do? He shouted. I could hear background noise. Cars honking, maybe a siren. He was still outside. The hospital administrator just called me. She said the payment for the birth was revoked. She said the card was reported stolen. Stolen, Mom. She said if we don't provide a new card in 24 hours, they are sending the file to legal collections and filing a police report for theft of services. I know, I said. I spoke to them. You spoke to them? He sounded incredulous. So you admit it? You did this on purpose? Are you going senile? Why would you tell them it was fraud? Because it was fraud, Mario, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter. I looked at the magnets on my fridge. One of them was a photo of Mario from high school. He looked so innocent then. You asked me for a $200 deposit. You charged $13,500. You didn't ask me. You stole my identity. It's not stealing, he yelled. I'm your son. We're family. Since when do we keep score like this? I was going to pay you back. Eventually. Eventually, I let out a sharp laugh. You have a mortgage, Mario. You have a new baby. You weren't going to pay me back. You were going to let me pay for your VIP suite and your steak dinners while I sat in the lobby eating a granola bar. This is insane, he sputtered. You are ruining this family. Do you understand that? This is going to destroy my credit score. We're trying to refinance the house next year. If this goes to collections, we're screwed. How can you be so selfish? How can you do this to your own granddaughter? There it was, the pivot. When he couldn't win with anger, he brought up the baby. Don't you dare talk about Yasmin, I said, my voice hardening. I am talking about her, he screamed. Kara is in the car crying her eyes out right now because of you. She's worried the police are going to come to our house. She's breastfeeding. Mom, stress stops the milk. You are literally taking food out of your granddaughter's mouth because you're having a tantrum over money. I'm not having a tantrum, I said, and I'm not the one who caused this stress. You did. You made a choice, Mario. You chose to lie. You chose to treat me like a bank account instead of a person. We treated you fine, he lied. We just asked for some space at the hospital. That's normal. You didn't ask for space. I corrected him. You told me Kara's mom was the only grandma she needed. Silence. He stopped breathing for a second on the other end. He remembered saying it. He couldn't deny it. He stammered. I didn't mean it like that. You meant exactly that. I said, you were very clear. You said Sharon is the real grandmother. You said I was just the mother-in-law. You made it very clear that there is a hierarchy in your family, and I am at the bottom. I took a deep breath. So I continued. If Kara's mom is the only grandma she needs, then Kara's mom can pay the bill. Ask Sharon for the $13,000. She enjoyed the pull-out suite. She ate the meals. Let her pay for them. Sharon doesn't have that kind of money. Mario snapped. She's retired. So, am I Mario? I shouted back, finally losing my cool. I'm on a fixed income. I live on Social Security and a small pension. $13,000 is everything I have in savings. It's my roof repair fund. It's my medical emergency fund. You were willing to wipe me out, completely wipe me out, just to impress your wife and her mother. We can fix this, he said, his voice dropping, realizing that shouting wasn't working. Mom, please, just call the bank. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you authorized it. Please. If you do that, I promise I'll set up a payment plan with you. $50 a month. Whatever I can afford. $50 a month. At that rate, he would pay me back in 22 years. I would be dead by then. No, I said. There was a rustling sound on the phone. Here, Mario said muffled. You talk to her. He was handing the phone to Kara. I stiffened. I hadn't spoken to Kara in weeks. Lydia. Her voice was soft. It was shaky. It sounded like the voice of a victim. Hello, Kara, I said. Lydia, please, she said, and I could hear the tears in her voice. I don't understand why this is happening. We just brought Yasmin home. This is supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, and now Mario is talking about lawyers and police. I'm scared. I'm sorry you're scared, Kara, I said, but Mario committed a crime. I didn't make him do that. He was just trying to give me a good birth experience, she sobbed. I had a really hard pregnancy. He just wanted me to be comfortable. Is that a crime? Wanting your wife to be happy. It is when you use someone else's money to do it without asking. I said, Lydia, look. She sniffled, her voice changing. The sadness was drying up, replaced by negotiation. We can work this out. We're family. Family forgives. Family also respects each other. I said, I know things were tense at the hospital. Kara said quickly, and I'm sorry if you felt excluded. My mom can be a little overbearing sometimes, but we want you to be part of Yasmin's life. My grip on the phone tightened. Here it comes. The bribe. We were thinking, Kara continued, her voice gaining a little confidence. If you call the bank right now and reverse the fraud claim, we can forget all about this. You can come down next weekend. You can see the baby. You can hold her. We can take a family picture. I closed my eyes. She was selling me my granddaughter. She was holding access to Yasmin hostage. Pay the $13,500 bill, and we will let you hold the baby. It was a transaction. It was extortion wrapped in a lullaby. You want me to pay $13,000 to hold my granddaughter? I asked. No, I'm just saying we can't have you around if you're suing us, Kara said, her voice turning sharp again. That's not healthy for the baby. So, if you want a relationship with Yasmin, you need to fix this financial mess. Otherwise, well, we can't have toxic people around our daughter. Toxic. I was the one who drove through the rain. I was the one who knitted the blanket. I was the one who was robbed. And I was the toxic one. Kara, I said, put Mario back on the phone. But put him on. A moment later, Mario was back. Mom, did you guys work it out? Are you calling the bank? Mario, I said, I went to the hospital this morning, before I drove home. What? He sounded confused. I didn't see you. I know you didn't see me. I was in the parking lot. I watched you leave. I watched you load the car. Okay, so I saw you take the silver rattle out of the gift bag. I saw you put it in your pocket. He was silent. And then I continued, my voice trembling with the memory of it. I saw you take the lavender blanket I knitted, the one I spent 4 months making, the one I made with cashmere, because I wanted her to be warm. I paused. I wanted him to feel it. I watched you walk over to the trash can. and I watched you throw it in the garbage like it was a dirty napkin. Mom, He started to stutter. The bag was just, don't lie to me. I snapped. I walked over there, Mario. I climbed into the trash, and I took it out. It was covered in grease. It smelled like garbage. That is what you think of my love. That is what you think of me. It was an accident, he tried, but his voice was weak. He knew he was caught. It wasn't an accident, I said. You kept the silver rattle because it's worth money. You kept the stroller because it's expensive. You threw away the blanket because it only had sentimental value. And you don't have any sentiment left for me. Mom, please, we can explain. There is nothing to explain, I said. You made your choice in that parking lot. You decided I was trash. Well, Mario, I have news for you. Trash doesn't pay for VIP suites. Trash doesn't pay for platinum birth packages. Mom, don't do this, he yelled, the panic rising again. They're going to arrest me. Then maybe you should call Sharon, I said coldly. Maybe she can bake a cake with a file in it, because I am done paying for people who throw me away. Mom, wait. Mom, goodbye, Mario. I pulled the phone away from my ear. I could still hear his tiny, tinny voice screaming, Mom, from the receiver. I placed the receiver back on the cradle. Click. The connection was severed. The screaming stopped. I stood there in the kitchen, my hand still resting on the phone. My heart was pounding, but my head was clear. I looked down at the floor. I felt light. I had lost $13,000 worth of family today, but I had saved myself. It has been 6 months since I hung up that phone. 6 months since I pressed the decline button and chose myself. It's funny how silence changes over time. At first, the silence in my house felt heavy. It felt like a punishment. I would wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for my phone, wondering if Mario had texted, wondering if he had fixed things, wondering if I had been too harsh. But then the silence changed. It started to feel like peace. I'm sitting on my back patio right now. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening in Portland. The air smells like damp earth and blooming jasmine. And I should tell you, this patio is new. Remember that $13,500? The money Mario tried to steal for his VIP suite? Well, I didn't let it sit in the bank. I decided that if my money was good enough for a hospital luxury suite, it was good enough for my own sanctuary. I hired a contractor. I tore up the old cracked concrete slabs that had been driving me crazy for 20 years. I put in beautiful stone pavers. I bought a comfortable outdoor sofa with thick, weatherproof cushions. I bought a heater for the chilly Maine nights. I spend my mornings here now. I drink my coffee. I listen to the birds. I don't listen to screaming demands for money. I don't listen to lies. My health has improved, too. I went to see Dr. Evans last week for my 6-month checkup. He took my blood pressure and looked at me over his glasses, just like he always does. Lydia, he said, your numbers are down, way down. Your heart rhythm is steady. What did you change? New diet? I laughed. No, doctor, I said, I just lost about 350 pounds of dead weight. He didn't know I was talking about my son and daughter-in-law. I won't lie to you and say I don't think about them. I do. I think about Yasmin every single day. She must be sitting up by now. Maybe she's starting to crawl. I wonder if she has Mario's dark eyes or Kara's nose. I have a photo of her, the one Mario sent me when she was first born, before the fight. I keep it in a drawer. I don't put it on the fridge. It hurts too much to look at it every time I get the milk. But I hear things. Small towns and big families talk. My cousin Betty called me last Sunday. Betty loves to gossip, and she's friends with Sharon's sister on Facebook. Lydia, Betty whispered, like she was sharing state secrets. Have you heard about Mario and Kara? No, Betty, I said, pruning my hydrangeas. And I don't want to pry. Well, you didn't hear it from me, she said, continuing anyway. But they are having a terrible time. The hospital didn't let that bill go. They sent it to collections. Mario's credit score tanked. They couldn't refinance their house like they planned, so their mortgage payments went through the roof. I felt a little twinge of sympathy, but I snipped a dead leaf off the bush and let it fall. Choices have consequences, Betty. And get this, Betty added, lowering her voice even more. You know, the other grandmother, Sharon, I remember her. I said dryly, well, apparently, she isn't the super grandma they thought she was. Once the baby started having colic and crying all night, Sharon decided she was too old for this. She stopped coming over to help. She told Kara she needed to focus on her retirement. So now, Kara is back at work early to pay the bills, and they are paying a fortune for daycare because they don't have any family help. I put my gardening shears down. Sharon left, the woman who sat in the rocking chair, holding my granddaughter like a trophy while I stood in the hallway. She got tired. She wanted the glory of the birth, the VIP suite, and the cute photos. But she didn't want the work. It's sad, really. They threw away the one person who would have stayed up all night. They threw away the one person who would have walked through fire for them. They traded a devoted mother for a fair weather fan, and now they are paying the price. I went inside and washed my hands. I sat down at my kitchen table with my journal. I write in it every night. It helps me process the loss, because it is a loss. I lost a son. I lost the future I imagined. I opened to a fresh page and wrote today's date. I miss them, I wrote, but I don't miss the feeling of being used. I don't miss feeling like a wallet with legs. I have learned that family isn't just about whose blood runs in your veins. It's about who respects you. It's about who cherishes you. I looked out the window at my new patio. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow over the stones. I am alone, but I am not lonely. I have my dignity. I have my peace. And I have my lavender garden growing strong and wild, just like me. I closed the journal. Now I want to talk to you. Yes, you, the woman reading this, the grandmother who has been driving 3 hours to babysit, the mother who has been handing over checks to adult children who never say thank you. Ladies, we spend our lives giving. We give our bodies to create them. We give our sleep to raise them. We give our savings to educate them. We are taught that a mother's love is unconditional, but unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance. There comes a moment when you have to look at the people you raised and ask yourself, do they love me, or do they just love what I do for them? When Mario threw my blanket in the trash, he showed me the truth. When he stole my identity, he showed me his character. If I had paid that bill, I would have taught him that it's okay to steal from his mother. I would have taught him that I have no boundaries. I would have bought a relationship with my granddaughter, but it would have been a fake relationship built on extortion. I chose the hard road. I chose the empty house, but I sleep at night. My conscience is clear. So I have to ask you, what would you have done? If you were standing in that parking lot, watching your handmade gift land in a dumpster, if you picked up the phone and heard a bill for $13,000, would you have paid it to keep the peace? Or would you have pressed the button? Would you have chosen your dignity? Think about it. Really think about it. Because you teach people how to treat you. And I finally taught my son that I am priceless. What city are you listening from? And what time is it there? Write it in the comments. And if you'd like to help me keep sharing these emotional, thrilling stories every day, even a small donation makes a big difference. It truly helps keep the channel alive. For more life stories like this, you can explore the other videos on my channel and subscribe. On the screen, You'll see 2 new stories I'm sure you'll enjoy. Click 1 and start listening right away. With love.